At one point in time, I used to be a heavy anime watcher. I was into all those fighting based anime such as like Dragon Ball, Baki the Grappler, and I also played like a lot of Tekken as well. And I was a Jin Kazama main, which is this guy here. This guy's like the main character of the fighting game. So why am I telling you all this? Because one thing that all these types of characters from these anime or video games have in common is that they have a massive back. I mean, just look at this here. Very well defined. I'm talking like god tier V taper kind of backs. And believe it or not, these guys actually played a little bit of a role in inspiring myself to get into the gym and work on building my back. So today, I want to give you guys like a quick run through the major muscles in the back, including like the standard origin and insertions of muscles, and some examples of exercises that we can implement into our workouts to build a more muscular back. So before we begin, there are quite a few muscles located in the back. However, from a bodybuilding perspective, we want to be focusing on the latissimus dorsi, the trapezius muscles, the rhomboid muscles, and the erector spinae muscles. Just a quick note before we get started on the anatomy of the back. Our spine is essentially divided up into three divisions. So at the top here, where our neck is, we have what is known as the cervical vertebrae, and we have seven bones making up the cervical vertebrae. Moving down towards the rib area, we have the thoracic vertebrae, which is 12 vertebrae, and towards the lower end of our back, we have what is known as the lumbar vertebrae, and we have 5 vertebrae here. Now, starting off with the latissimus dorsi muscle, this muscle is the most prominent muscle located in the back, and is actually the widest muscle in the human body. There are 4 parts to the latissimus dorsi muscle, with each part having different originating points. So the vertebral part of the lat originates from the spinous processes of the 7th thoracic vertebrae to the 5th lumbar vertebrae, and the thoracolumbar fascia, which is the connective tissue that surrounds the deep muscles of the back and attaches it to the vertebrae and the sacrum. So what I'm talking about are these points here. These are the spinous processes along the back of our vertebrae, and this is where part of the lat muscle actually originates from. And there's another origin point here, which was that aponeurosis, which surrounds those deep muscles and anchors it to helps anchor it to the vertebrae and the sacrum down there. The costal part of the lat originates from the 9th to 12th ribs, and the iliac part originates from the iliac crest down here, which is a pelvic structure, and the scapular part originates from the inferior angle of the scapula, which is found around here. All the fibers actually converge together and insert into the intertrabecular sulcus of the humerus, which is up here. So the lat has a fair bit of function, with its main functions being to extend the flexed arm, to adduct and internally rotate the arm, and to pull the pectoral girdle, which are the bones that make up the shoulder joint, backward as a whole group when the humerus is fixed against the scapula. Next up, we have the trapezius muscles. These muscles are large and triangular in shape and consist of 3 different parts, each with their own origin and insertion points. The superior parts of the trap originate from the medial third of the superior nuchal line, which are curved lines found on the external surface of the occipital bone, which is around here. It courses inferiorly and inserts into the lateral third of the clavicle. The medial parts of the trap originate from the nuchal ligament attached to the vertebrae C1 to C6, and the supraspinous ligaments of vertebrae C7 to T3. So it's like that mid to upper part of the back, those vertebrae in the mid to upper region. They attach onto the medial margin of the acromion of the scapula and the superior crest of the spine of the scapula. And finally, the inferior fibers of the trap originate from the spinous processes and the supraspinous ligaments of vertebrae T4 to T12, so pretty much all thoracic region, and inserts onto the lateral part of the apex of the spine of the scapula, so all along here. There are multiple functions of the trap muscle. These include stabilization, elevation, depression, retraction, and rotation of the scapula at the scapulothoracic joint. It also contributes to lateral flexion and contralateral rotation of the head during unilateral contraction and extension of the head during bilateral contraction. So when I say lateral flexion and contralateral rotation of the head during unilateral contraction, all I'm saying is that it basically just helps us to move our heads like this, left and right, and to flex as well, like this. And when I say extension of the head during bilateral contraction, like this. So it basically allows us to move our head in all four directions like this. Now moving on to the rhomboids. These are two muscles that are quad-shaped and located between the medial margins of the scapulae. They are separated into both the rhomboid major and the rhomboid minor. So the rhomboid major muscle originates from the spinous processes of the vertebrae T2 to T5 and inserts into the medial border of the scapula between the inferior angle and the root of the spine of the scapula. The rhomboid minor muscle originates from the nuchal ligament and spinous processes of vertebrae C7 and T1. It inserts into the base of the medial end of the spine of the scapula, just above the rhomboid major. So the function of these muscles here are to stabilize and to retract the scapula at the scapulothoracic joint. Now, the final main group for muscles that we are aiming to build for building a strong back are the erector spinae muscles. So these include the spinalis muscle, which attaches between the spinous processes of the vertebrae, the longissimus muscle, which attaches between the transverse processes of the vertebrae, and the iliocostalis muscle, which spans between the angles of the ribs and the transverse processes of their corresponding regional vertebrae. So when I talk about these processes, these little like lumps or spines on the vertebrae. So when I say spinous processes, it's think of like the back, coming out the back. And when I say transverse, I mean it moves laterally, so it comes out the side. So they're like this. Whereas the spine, straight, transverse. So the function of the erector spinae muscle is to extend and to laterally flex the spine. Now, effectively, in order to get the strongest possible back, we want to be working our way towards doing compound exercises. This is because they provide us with the greatest amount of growth and strength gains to the major muscles in the back that we're looking to build. There are multiple exercises that we can do for the lat muscles. However, from trial and error, what I've found to work for myself is a dumbbell bent over row on a bench, as well as doing lat pull downs on a cable machine. So these exercises here, they both build width and thickness in the lat muscles. So the pull down builds the width, and the rowing motion helps us to build thickness. We want to be incorporating these exercises until we reach a strength capable of doing pull-ups, because pull-ups are gonna really work those lat fibers, as well as work the other muscles in the back to a lesser extent. For the traps, the exercises that I found that have worked for me the best include exercises such as face pulls on the cable machine for the lower portions, so the middle to the lower portions of the trap, while the dumbbell shoulder shrugs are absolute killers for the upper traps. So these isolate your upper traps and will help provide more aesthetics to the neck, which makes it appear more prominent. Now for the rhomboid muscles, we don't necessarily isolate them, because rhomboids are actually activated when performing other back exercises such as face pulls and dumbbell rows. So theoretically, any exercise that involves the retraction of the scapula will actually work the rhomboids too. For the erector spinae muscles, they're activated when doing dumbbell rows. If we want to really target this group of muscles, we can do other exercises as well, such as kettlebell swings, glute bridges, as well as good mornings. So that just about does it for today's video. Overall, in my opinion, the back is probably my favorite set of muscles to train, just because the movements are just really, really simple, and along with this, they actually provide massive hypertrophy and strength gains. So I feel like back is a very important muscle group that we should not be ignoring, as we use our back a lot for pulling motions every day. So in my opinion, I feel that strength and conditioning of the back is vital. As always, I appreciate you guys taking time to watch my video today. Hopefully you learned something new, and hopefully you incorporate some of these exercises here into your workout routine and you start seeing results soon. Till next time.